and what other role they were going to do. Right, there's one last point, and I actually think this is a banger, because I noticed there was a couple of people actually did also get a similar take, but I'm going to make it this way. You know, I said a few episodes back that I actually was worried, Maui, that people would over-obsess about Donk, and that actually might affect Donk, like it might put too much pressure on him, and people are expecting him to walk in and win every time. Now, obviously, he did do it, so he actually has defied history in that sense. But here's the downside. Because he was having not only eye tests, but stats-wise, these impossible series where he's breaking numbers, and he's never letting up, and it's keeping going, and he's never had a map below 1.2 and all that, all this shit that everyone's on about. I think the saddest part about it all goes like this. Bro, I would get if we only talked about Donk, if they'd lost that semi-final and he just fragged out and they lost. Am I missing that, like, Team Spirit won the event? No, there was no conversation about Team Spirit. Because here's what's crazy. The way people have characterized Spirit is so fucking out of hand. It's insane. They're making this sound like this is a really bad Na'Vi that Simple has to carry. Or when Ziwu had, like, only the veterans and no firepower, and it didn't matter if he fragged out, if he could win or not. They're talking like, well, no one's ever done this. Yeah, because here's the thing. Which young prodigy like this ever had this much help? No one ever, by the way. That's not to say he didn't himself also outperform everyone ever, but I'll tell you what, I've never seen anyone have this much help. Like, for a start off, you know when he wins every T-side duel, Maui Snake? I'll give you a little analogy that you'll like here, mate. Supposedly, when you go to, like, indigenous tribes, like shamans and witch doctors in, like, Africa or South America, one of the secrets of being that person, Maui, isn't just that you communicate with the gods and have the medicines, it's that you're shrewd enough to know who you to not say you can heal. You don't just say to everyone, oh, heal them all. If you see the guy where it's like Loki, fuck, he looks like he's almost at death's door. You just say something like, oh, it's too far gone. You know, his spirit has already moved on to, because you know that your shit won't work on him. Like, there's not even a chance you could fluke it, right? The analogy in this particular case is a similar one. It's like when people look at these teams, like, guys, this isn't a guy who was on his own with no help. Like, first of all, he doesn't just take every entry duel. I've noticed, mate, when the fucking sick off-angle opens around the corner, he ain't the first one going round. He is either someone's jumping round like old school Apex, so he can trade, which works, but that's how you should play. And I'll tell you another thing, he doesn't go in dry. This isn't, I'll tell you what, I'll even give credit to Yekindar. This isn't even what Yekindar on VP was. This guy is set up with flashes religiously. Like, he's actually, by the way, I would say the number one lesson of this team isn't you have to have donk. It's broad. Do you know how many aggressive riflers could use a fucking setup like this? They use teammates to set him up. They use flashes to set him up. Like, it's actually one of the shrewdest platforms I've ever seen created for, like, a super stud player. Like, if you notice, most of those other players are sort of expected to do this, that, the other, and all these extreme things. I actually have never seen anyone almost, like, gilded into this position. And then lastly, let's not just throw this out there for no reason. He did have fucking Shiro with him as well. A guy with no overlap who's fragging. By the way, go look, Shiro had MVP numbers at a normal tournament. That would be the MVP of the tournament if Donk didn't do all that. So essentially, my ugly point, no, it's not bad, it's not good, it's just the characterization. Because I think people who only looked on Twitter or saw the big results would think this was like, there's a Donk guy, the rest are all shitters. And what, by the way, notice I didn't even in the list of things get to mention that, like, Zontix fucked around with like a 1.16 rating and never dropped off in the final. Like, bro, this is not like a the joke is, it might actually end up being the GOAT player, but this team's actually fucking good, guys. I give credit. Like, they didn't win just because Donk went crazy. Like, I actually think for real, Donk could have had like a 1.3 and they still would have won the tournament. Like, that's the real reason they were blowing everyone out the server. It's why actually, like I say, that's the real reason I think Carrigan cried. It wasn't just that Donk's too good. It's not like nobody, the way they played that tournament, it looked like no one could have beaten them. Everything was amazing for that squad that won off. What do you guys think of this?
I actually agree completely. I feel like it's a really good analogy with what people were thinking about. For example, let's say 2019 Simple when he was on Na'Vi, right? I feel like a lot of people are treating it like that. And actually something that I've noticed, the people that are not treating it like that are the people that are, let's say, ESCA up to intermediate people that have played against Team Spirit Academy.
Right.
And all of the other guys
Sure.
like that. Because I had the chance to talk about Spirit to some of those guys. And you know, I've had all of those guys come to me and be like, you know what? Donk is absolutely insane. But Zontix is fucking crack. Art Frost is on another level. So obviously we're not going to bring in Art Frost because you get replaced by Shiro. But this is not because you are doing a bad job. Art Frost is still, for me, a fucking phenomenal whopper. But yeah, Spirit as a team is just great. I mean, you did bring in a really good point. The fact that Donk is getting a lot of the opening kills doesn't actually mean that he's initiating into the fight itself, right? I think, one of the really good examples is people can actually look at the amount of times that I found that quite funny. Chopper has always been, I think, a really good player at opening up space for his team. He's always been that type of an IGL that can run in first and just set up everyone up. The amount of highlights that donk has of like triple opening kill when Chopper is just jumping in front of him, and they're just running, they're just going ring around the rosy around each other. It's really hard to actually explain. It's almost like you're looking at a funny compilation of CS. But Chopper is just running, and then donk is just dancing around singing that Spanish song with the compilation around him and just headshotting people. Which obviously donk is a great player. Like obviously he's really skilled. Everyone can see that. But I completely agree with you. I feel like on a different team that wouldn't have worked out. And one thing that I want to mention as well, because I don't want to dig in too deep, because I feel like you already said a lot. I feel like on a different team, I'm not sure if that dynamic would have worked out, because he's got the most humble teammates in the world. I don't think if Shiro really gives a damn if people are giving him individual credit, because he already had that when he was on Gambit Youngsters in Cloud9, and now I feel like he just prefers winning trophies. Zontix, for a 21-year-old, has really mature, or no, wait, he's 18. Yeah, I got that wrong. He's 18 or 19. So for that type of a young and unexperienced player, he's got a pretty mature way of, I think, looking at things. Because he comes out and gives an interview and he's like, I don't really care if people are hyping me up. I don't really care if I get the stats, the MVPs, the AVPs. All I care about is winning trophies, which usually is something that you get with older players, I'd say. Then you have Chopper, who I feel like is at the stage of his career. Like, Chopper's always been a guy that sacrifices himself for the team. He's the IGO. He just wants to win. And then you have Magix, who I think as well doesn't strike me as a guy with a big ego. So I feel like he's got a lot of players that are simultaneously extremely skilled and extremely powerful, and they can put up star numbers themselves. But in the same time, they don't really mind that everyone's going to be talking about donk, right? They don't really give a damn as long as they're winning the tournaments. So I feel like he's set up really nicely. And this is a really hard thing to actually achieve. I feel like, especially when you're a 17 or 18-year-old guy, I think the example that you gave with Brolan is really good. Unless you're in a team with like 3-4 older guys that really do appreciate the fact that you are extremely skilled and realize that you're the only person that can win them the game, you're probably not going to get that treatment. But now you're getting that treatment from people that are approximately your age and that are extremely skilled as well. Shiro is prime years of his career, and maybe he's probably got 6-7 years more of that, and they're giving you that respect, and they're letting you play your game like this. So yeah, I feel like the team in general was just built up really nicely around him, and obviously that doesn't take away the fact that he's a really skilled player. But yeah, I don't think that under different circumstances he would have been that great. He probably still would have been really good, right? But I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that Spirit as a team is just really well put in together.
Like, put it this way, I would even say, if this was Hot Take Point, I probably would make this point, but we'll see if we ever get to that show. All I would say is this. The joke is, I couldn't say this till they won the tournament, but actually, I'm glad he stayed on Team Spirit now. When I first heard that move, Shiro's going there, I was like, oh, bloody hell, are they just going to be trapped in this team? But then when you actually saw that they can do it, it's not just some online shit. Like, the joke is, like you're saying, Ted, if he'd have gone to, I mean, it was rumored it was like Vitality and teams like that were often... There's almost no way you walk in and they give you everything there. Like, I can tell you, if you want to actually go, the best example is the Brazilian scene. Mate, do you know how many players have joined Fallen's team and then magically they're not any good? Because they're not playing any of their roles or spots. Go ask Cello, Bolt, Phelps, all these guys. You don't get to be who you were. So I actually think the joke is he might actually have the perfect team to have this chance to have this insane debut. Because that's the other thing. Who else ever was in this situation? Come on, Maui, what's your take on this angle?
Well, the way that they've set up players, or the way that Chopper kind of historically has been really solid. Like, I mean, just think of even the drop-off that Patsy had after he left the team. You know, he looked like such a... The thing is, I did notice, like, I'm not going to say that it's all set up or anything like that. I'm not going to go, like, full Alex Vitality and be like, we're the ones throwing flashes for him.
Yes.
But the thing is that actually of 3 of the players on Spirit, they had the 3 highest flash assists per round, or in the top 14.
Yes.
Like Magix, Chopper, and Shiro all. If you look at flash assists, like of all of Katowice, they're all in the top 14, and Donk's like near the very bottom. Zontix is kind of near the bottom himself. So like, yeah, they know how to use their utility to set up their star player, which is great. And you would hope that's how most teams would structure themselves. But like, I will say, like, to push back on it just a little bit, like Donk's rifling prowess has reached a point, like, just from this one tournament alone, that to me it reads as transcendent. Like, I was seriously blown away by the way that he takes so many different duels, even the ones that are unassisted. Like, he's so frequent. Like, when you watch back, like, someone on Reddit wrote this thing about, like, I watched Donk's POV, it's not that special. watch his opponents.
Okay.
Yeah, no, some stupid ass post.
Okay.
Like, which is
It's the sad thing, though. I
saw.
know what they mean, though, about what they mean is this, which I will say is weird about him. He doesn't just do instant headshots all the time like an equal. But the reason that's weird to me is I would just say this to them, bro. Watch when he gets his crosshair on them. They always die. Every single time. Like that's not what normal players are like in this game. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thing when I like looking at Donk's demos, it kind of reminds me like because the thing is that Prime like really Xantares even to this day, one thing that he does too is it's not actually all headshots. He doesn't have that bit or twist level of headshot percentage. He's just also like his crosshair is like a magnet. Once he gets onto them or even misses that first bullet, it's just a perfect 5 burst spray that's right into their stomach every time. And that same thing is for same things for Donk. So but the thing is that you look at actually some of the deaths from opponents' POVs for Dong, and it's like, what could they like? He's so like Weasley. He's so Weasley with like his movement that he'll like so frequently he'll stutter step like left once, crouch swing back into the angle just barely, so his head's actually coming up into the fight. It's such a hard thing to like when you watch his POV, you might not even notice it, but like this dude is like spamming his control key and movement keys all the time just so that he can manipulate his move speed. So it's like the very second that he's in a like accurate enough range, like you hit that. Like you don't have to have 0 move speed to have an accurate shot. You need to have like 70 move speed, and that's when he takes his shot so frequently. Like it's on his slowdown as he's still moving into an angle so frequently. So it's like these little micro choices that he makes are what makes him such a strong player. And the thing is that probably does motivate the rest of the team, that it's like, hey, if we set this guy up with one flash, it doesn't even need to be the perfect flash. It just needs to be a darn good flash and a solid flash even. And I'll always run in front of that guy. Like I'll always die first because he's always going to trade it. And if you give him the right calm or anything like that, like, so I'm not like, Spirit is a great team already. Like that's the thing. If you even put in Patsy back into this team at the same level that he was playing, for example, at the Antwerp Major, it's actually possible they could have made this run. I don't think they would have beat FaZe.
They'd still make a deep run, though. Yeah, they'd make a deep run.
Yeah. They would have made playoffs for sure. Oh yeah, because of the other people we're talking about. The fact that Shiro had an insane tournament for himself and was like we barely even. I mean, I didn't even work Spirit games, but looking back at the stuff like throughout the day, it was just like.
Oh mate, do you want to know what's hilarious? I was even watching the final on a watch party, right? And what's funny is, no joke, Shiro's kills are all invisible because since he does that like boring defensive style, well, they're never watching his POV because Donk's in the game, mate. So all you see for real is like you do for real pull up the scoreboard. It's like that fucking meme about Guardian or whatever back in the day. You pull up the scoreboard, and you're like, how's he got 20 kills? I didn't see anything. But like that, that's the joke. Shiro, by the way, is going to be the invisible man in this team. It's mad. Even though he's doing like a 1.25 rating or something, like fucking hell.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I just think like if anybody really wants to do like to understand Donk a little more, just simply get the demos, watch maybe you could watch Donk's POV, but just watch the people he kills. Like it feels unbeatable.
Like, by the way, all I'll say is this. The number one person I hope was watching that fucking tournament was Cadian from Team Liquid. Because, mate, you have your Kindar. Like, you could do some of this shit with him too, you know. He's not the same player, but you could make a lot of his entries way better in this way. Like, and you could probably farm some T-sides. So, yeah. Oh, like I say, to me, the ugly point is the characterization. Because I do feel like the Donk phenomenon made people think like the rest of them had chopped liver. Whereas, like, at least 2 of them aren't. And even the others did their job too. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.